Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Direct Page Puncher Superman. Now these Page Punchers are not technically part of the McFarlane DC Multiverse line, but I sure consider them to be an offshoot of that. This is McFarlane's way of bringing back DC Direct by having artist-specific action figures based off comics. The comic itself is included with the figure, which is a pretty cool concept. I believe these figures are based off the art of Lee Marmejo. Probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'm getting better. Two things I really like: comic books and action figures put together seems to be a no-brainer. So let's go and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, ages 12 plus, DC Direct, McFarlane Toys, includes an exclusive comic by DC, and it's Superman. Here's the package. He has the comic, 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 interchangeable hands, a flight stand, and a collector's card. One side of the package, Superman with a Black Adam comic. Other side, Page Punchers. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. And on the back side, here's Superman, and here is the comic. So no further ado, let's open him up. Here's the entire first wave of the McFarlane Page Punchers: Batman, Constantine, Superman, and Black Adam. I've seen some rumors of what's coming up next. Can't wait to actually see him in person, though. Seems to be a pretty cool line. Exclusive comic, some badass figures, 2 thumbs up. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 interchangeable hands, a flight stand, a collector's card, and of course, the Black Adam comic with the McFarlane Collector's Edition variant cover. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Superman, more or less in his iconic look. Not his classic look, but it's very familiar. We got the red trunks, red boots, yellow belt, the big Superman symbol on his chest. It all looks pretty good, although the color scheme is a little bit darker than what I'm used to with Superman. And the head sculpt looks a little bit younger and different than what I'm used to. He has a signature curl, but it's handled differently. Not quite sure how I feel about his head or face at this time, but we'll see if I warm up to it as we do this video. So let's take a look. So here's Superman, Clark Kent, Kal-El. Like I said, they're trying to be a little bit, I don't know, edgy or modern with his head. The hair, a little bit of a mess. He's got the curl at the front there, some of the hair sticking up. I mean, it looks good, the sculpt is well done. He just looks younger and thinner than I'm used to. It almost looks like an older version of John Kent. Going further down, the blue in his suit, definitely darker than I'm used to. Overall, this body looks like to be a new body for Superman. Seems a lot slimmer than some of the other McFarlane Superman figures we've seen so far. The red and the blue, both darker than I'm used to. The S on his chest looks great. Double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. Boots look fantastic. I like the cut at the top there. His hands, they seem a little bit big for this body here. Look at his cape. It's fluttering in the wind. Pretty unique sculpt. I haven't seen this cape before in a McFarlane figure. It all looks really good. Just a little bit darker and different than I'm used to, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt. A little bit thinner, a little bit younger. It just doesn't really scream Clark Kent to me. Drop me a line in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up or thumbs down to this face and head sculpt. It's not bad. It just doesn't scream Clark Kent to me. That being said, it's not a bad head sculpt. Just doesn't really scream Clark Kent to me. Can't wait to do a couple head swaps later in this video. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start off with the display stand. Here's his display stand. It comes in 2 separate pieces, the base and the flight post. You can use the bottom of the flight stand as just a regular display stand. When you put both of them together, this is how it's going to look. The bottom is a transparent perfect circle. It says DC. It's got 1 peg for the peg holes on his feet. Then it has this post that goes up to the top. At the top, it is hinged. It can rotate. And there's a clamp here that'll hold your figure. Here's an example of him utilizing the flight stand, hovering in the air. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of the cover of Black Adam #1, Superman. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Now let's look at the comic that comes with this figure. This is Black Adam #1. If I'm not mistaken, there's a regular release of this in comic stores, but this is a cover variant exclusive to the McFarlane figures. I could be wrong about that. If you know if this is available outside the figures or exclusively to the figures, drop me a line in the comments below. As you can see on the front, we have Black Adam, Constantine, Superman, Batman. The Superman face, it doesn't exactly look like the figure, but I can definitely see the inspiration they took from it. Open up this comic, you can see it starts off with Superman and Black Adam defending the Hall of Justice. Black Adam, McFarlane Special Edition. Now, I was a little bit disappointed that all four of these figures came with the same book. I imagine there's some people that are going to buy all four of these figures and expect to get issue number 1, 2, 3, 4. That is how I thought it was going to be. But, you know, I still get it. The only comic for these page punchers that's different at all is going to be the comic that came with the black and white Target exclusive version of Batman. That comic cover is done in black and white. Now let's take a look at his hands. He has 4 of them, 2 pairs, 1 pair of fisted hands, and 1 pair of flat hands. Every single Superman figure out there should come with a pair of fists and a pair of flat hands. Nice job, McFarlane, on this one. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. And here he is with his next pair of hands. These are his flight hands. You can take the figure, get his hands ready for flight, and the way he's articulated gives you some really good flight poses. His torso and his head works out very nicely. Now, the 2 Superman figures I wanted to do a head swap with the most was going to be the Action Comics 1000 Superman and the Rebirth Superman. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I realized this, but I think they have the exact same head sculpt. The paint differences really make them look different. I thought the Rebirth Superman's head was thicker, but I'm pretty sure they are the same sculpt. Before I do the head swaps, I noticed the hands here are exactly the same. Both seem a little bit too large. Action Comics hands are a little smaller. Let's see if those fit on this page puncher Superman. Unfortunately, the hand swaps didn't work. The thickness of the pegs are just so different. The Action Comics 1000 hands are way too loose. They don't stay on, they fall right off. Here's this page puncher Superman with the classic Action Comics 1000 Superman head. I like this a lot. This is right up my alley. A classic, or more so an iconic looking Superman. A little more of a modern look, but he has that square jaw and classic face. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure, his accessories, and a head swap, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 7.1 inches tall, which can translate to about 18 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side. He can look up about that far, down that far, which is pretty nice for a flight pose. Can't tilt his head from one side to the other, giving a good amount of personality. Shoulders on a ball joint, goes out more than 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area, increasing the range of motion and covering up that gap. Bicep cut below that, double jointed elbows below that. His wrist here, you can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. Ball joint his torso, rotate around, forward and back. Another ball joint his waist, rotate around, forward and back, giving him a very wide range of motion in his torso area, much more than most of the other McFarlane figures. Once again, allow him to get into a very nice flight pose. Legs, pretty much complete does the splits. Not a ball joint, but a similar type concept. Rotation is non-existent. They go forward about that far. Back, not at all. Double jointed knees below that. Then his ankle here, done in the new style, not those ugly ball joints. Forward and back. Rotation, tilt, rock, and toe articulation. Here's Superman hovering above the skies of Metropolis. And here he is, getting ready to use his heat vision, charging up those laser eyes. Here's Superman in a flight pose above the rooftops of Metropolis. Here are all four of these page punchers. They're in the streets getting ready for the battle. And it's time. They all pull out their weapons and get ready to stop the forces of evil. Now let's check them out. Next to some other action figures. Starting off with some of the McFarlane Page Punchers and McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here's the entire first wave of the McFarlane Page Punchers. We've got Batman, Superman, Black Adam, and Constantine. These are all very solid releases. Very nice figures. I imagine we're going to continue to get these Page Punchers. I've already seen rumors of what's going to be in the second wave. Now let's check him out. Next to some other McFarlane Superman figures. Here he is, next to the Action Comics 1000 Superman. This is still my favorite McFarlane Superman to date. And then, next to the Rebirth Superman. Another iconic Superman from the comics. And here he is, next to the Dark Knight Returns Superman figure. And then, next to the Henry Cavill DC Cinematic Universe Superman. Here are all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Superman figures they've made so far. We have quite a few of them. The next one coming is going to be the Future State Caveman Superman. Here's a Superman next to a bunch of McFarlane Superman villains. We have Ultraman, Lex Luthor, General Zod, Bizarro, and Superboy Prime. And one can sort of argue Devastator and Lobo are Superman villains, at least at some points of time. Now let's check him out, next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the Black Adam wave, and there are still a couple more Black Adam figures coming out. Then, next to the Blackest Night wave, collective build Atrocitus. And here he is, next to the two most recent Mega figures, at least before the Black Adam wave, Killer Croc and Man-Bat. Then, next to McFarlane Toy Store exclusive, gold label variations of the Arkham Knight Red Hood and Scarecrow. And now, next to the Dark Knight's Metal Duke Thomas, and the Batman Who Laughs dressed as Batman. And here he is, next to both variations of the Future State Dark Detective Batman. Then, next to all three variations of Lex Luthor in his power suit. Here's Superman, next to the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive gold label variations of the unmasked Zernar Batman and the unmasked Infinite Frontier Robin. And here he is, next to the Crime Syndicate Ultraman and Superwoman. Then, next to the Batman vs. Hush 2-pack. And here, with the single release of Hush. Then, next to Ghostmaker. And here he is, next to the John Kent Superboy and the Tim Drake Red Robin. Then, standing next to Grifter and the Arkham Knight. Here's his Superman, next to CW's TV series Flash and the comic version of Godspeed. And finally, next to the Injustice version of Green Arrow and Reverse Flash. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the large action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller, and I'm going to include as many Superman figures as I can during these comparisons. Since we already checked him out with a bunch of McFarlane Superman figures, here he is with some other McFarlane toys. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, with some more McFarlane toys, these are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles Superman figures. And here he is, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse Superman figures. And here he is, next to some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, it's a pretty nice Superman figure. A little thinner than what I'm used to when it comes to my Superman figures. And the head just doesn't quite look right. It's a nice looking head sculpt, but doesn't scream Clark Kent to me. I more so think of an older John Kent. That's not what I'm looking for in a Superman figure. The costume's a little darker than I'd like, but I can work with it. It's pretty nice, actually. His articulation is great, everything you expect from a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. His accessories are pretty much non-existent. Alternate hands, which are nice. Fists and flight hands. Like I said before, every single Superman figure out there should include those kind of hands. Sculpt and paint job are excellent. No issues there. if I were to rate this figure, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. If his head sculpt was a little bit different, he'd easily be an 8. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything to say with the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.